Welcome to 1,000 Women, 1,000 Ways. And today's inspiring story is with Azelene. Welcome to the show.
Hi Jennifer, thank you very, very much. Thank you for having me here.
You're so very, very welcome. Now, how are you feeling?
Very excited to be here. Extremely excited to share my story. I think there's people out there that really needs to know the story. So yeah, very excited.
Awesome. Well, we'll get started.
Good. Excellent.
So your story starts where you found yourself in a domestically violent relationship in your teens.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, my first boyfriend that I met, and yeah, that's basically where it starts off. I was caught up in a 3.5-year domestic violence relationship with him. 2 occasions where I was literally very, very close to death. One of them was in the middle of this relationship. He literally pulled the trigger on me, or threw out special on me and pulled the trigger.
So a gun?
A gun. With a bullet that literally penetrated the wall next to my head. So he did try to kill me. God knows how he missed, but he did. I went back after that for another year. My friends and family didn't know what was going on in the relationship. I literally didn't tell anybody, and friends I lost throughout my journey with him. And till the last evening where I decided it's time to get out. I can't go on like this because I am going to get killed.
Why do you think you stayed so long, for 3.5 years? That viewers who are watching who don't have any experience or understanding of domestic violence might say, after he tried to kill you and you didn't leave, why not?
Actually, when you asked the question, a shiver went down my spine, and it's almost like I can put myself back in that situation, and the answer will be fear. It was absolute fear. I knew for a fact if I stayed with him that it would get to the point where he's going to kill me, but I was also scared that if I leave him, that he will hunt me down and kill me in any case. I was in a catch-22. The thing that I regret is not talking to people. Nobody knew. The first year in our relationship was definitely the grooming stage, so all my friends and family really liked him. I think it was actually just my mom that had a little bit of red lights coming up. She wasn't very fond of him. For the rest, my friends liked him. He was gorgeous, he was handsome, and they trusted him. So after a year when the violence started, how could I go back and tell people he's hitting me, and he's pushing me around, and there's emotional abuse and economic abuse and physical abuse? So it was very difficult. So it was basically fear. That's why I stayed.
And in that decision, it was, from the sounds of it, the lesser of the 2 evils, to stay than to be hunted down, never knowing when he might come.
Yeah.
And to hurt you.
Definitely. I can also add, I was young. I got involved with him the year I turned 17. I do see myself those days as a child. As you know, I left school 2 years prior to what I was supposed to. So I don't think I was emotionally strong enough yet. I was an adult. I was a child. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know on which doors to knock. I didn't know who to trust, because so much trust got lost in the whole process through this relationship. And yeah.
From what I've heard about domestic violence is often they're very charming men to pull you in,
charming.
And also to woo you and the family and the friends.
Yes.
And then slowly they cut you off.
Yes.
From the family and the
And there's a
friends.
reason for that. You won't often, and I believe that, you won't often get somebody that went through domestic violence that is in themselves a pathetic type of person. People that abuse look for strong people, because there's no challenge in cutting somebody down to pieces if they're already on the ground. So they're looking for a strong person, and they can slowly start cutting away. And yes, I had a very strong personality, even though I was very young. I mentioned again, I left school 2 years prior. I was born with a lack of oxygen, and I struggled through my schooling. I faced bullying because of my learning disability. I was always in the bottom of my class. I left school 2 years prior. When I left school, I lived in a small little town called Mayerton, very small little one-horse town. And there was always stories going around in this little town. So when I left school, I'm quite sure most of the stories that went around was she left because she was pregnant, because those days it was only pregnant girls and if you were a washout that left school. So I had to deal with all of that from a very, very young age. And where a lot of people will take that on and it will negatively affect them, I decided I'm going to use that to make me stronger. And that's where I believe my survival skills just grew into, I need to make it. Because I left school with the same mental mindset that I will make it in life, I will prove myself. So when I went through this domestic violence relationship and I came out on the other side, yes, it was terrible. I had to get some treatment. I saw a shrink for quite a while, but I believed I'm going to make it. Up until the point where I did close the doors and I felt I'd dealt with it. And only many years later, I had to open that door again.
And go down the rabbit hole.
Go down the rabbit hole again.
But just to ask you, what was that pivotal moment then that you decided, I'm leaving and I'm not going back? The fear of staying was then greater than the fear of leaving and him finding you. What was that defining moment or decision?
Wow, I can actually read it off my book cover. Do you want me to
yes,
read it?
Yes, because you have written a book.
My reading is not very good. Remember, I've got a learning disability because of the lack of oxygen, so I'm going to try my best to do this. I was beautiful the day we met, but look at me now. I'm all torn apart. It's close to midnight on a Saturday evening in early January 1993, but instead of reveling in the party atmosphere of the new year, like most 20-year-olds, I'm lying completely motionless on the cold hard floor of my living room. I can faintly hear the late-night traffic outside my open window on the second floor in Pretoria Street, Pretoria, South Africa. Fighting the darkness which threatens to consume me, I try to entertain the thought of calling for help. Fear. I know it was pointless. I licked my lip and recognized the familiar tang of blood in my mouth. The dark blue carpet under my skin felt like sandpaper under my bruised, battered face. I closed my eyes and let a solitary tear slide down my cheek, leaving a trail of memories of broken promises. Lying broken in a fetal position, with one eye still closed, my thoughts turned to my mother, and strangely I wondered what she would do and what she was doing right then. I was thinking about her and what she would do if she saw what was happening to her daughter right at this particular moment. Deep down in my heart, I knew she would pick me up and stroke my hair and whisper in my ears, "It will all be okay." The mirage of safety ripped me apart when I felt the sharp spurs penetrating my back, and I screamed, a deep, primary, continuous scream as it kicked me over and over again. What have I done to deserve this? How am I going to escape this mirage of hatred that this man has got for me? My final thoughts before I lost consciousness is the panic realization that I'm going to die. He's finally going to kill me, and it's going to be a slow, lonely, and very painful death. That's what I experienced that evening. And a couple of minutes later, I was still lying on the carpet with my eyes closed, and I heard my heart. I thought I was dead. And I heard my heart beat, and I opened my eyes, and he was lying on my couch fast asleep. That was the realization that I had to get out. that was also the realization that I need to get out and I'm never going to come back. For the second time in that relationship, I was this close to death. And I do believe things happens in 3. I wasn't ready for the 3rd time.
Wow, I'm very, very moved by what you wrote, and that's incredibly strong and powerful, and I really feel for what you went through. I'm very brave. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I am writing that in a book. Like I said earlier on, for me I closed that doors many years ago, and when I arrived in Australia, I didn't have any education, and I actually didn't know where I'm going to go. I had Sian started school full-time, so I felt a little bit lost again because I was quite an entrepreneur late in my life in South Africa. I had 2 big businesses that I really loved, and I moved to Australia, and I was 2 years from 40, and the thoughts came up to me, oh, what am I going to do with my life? At that point, I had another book that I written and I wanted to publish called Infertility, Road to Hell and Back, and I decided to study counselling in Australia, and I'm going to be an infertility counsellor. I mean, I've got the book to prove for it. I had the experience with my ex-marriage, and yes, that's who I'm going to be. I opened up my private practice, and every single woman that came to see me went through relationship issues and domestic violence. And I can promise you, up until today, I haven't seen or counselled one woman going through infertility. Now, that was a shocker to me because that was a place I didn't want to go to. Like I said, I closed the doors many years ago. And I prayed about it. I'm quite religious. I do believe the guy up there gave me suitcases full of nonsense from the day I was born, and I say that with a tongue in my cheek. But I do believe there's a reason for it, because he knew that I was strong enough to handle this. And I prayed, and I said to him, what now? I'm an infertility counsellor. Why are you doing this? The next day I went and I changed my business cards to relationship and domestic violence counsellor. It was perfect. I had to open that door because I realised, what am I going to lose? I'm not going to lose anything. I've been there, done that. If I can help one person with my story and what I've been through, I'm changing a little bit of the world, even if it's just a drop in the ocean. I ended up working as a domestic violence counsellor, and I'm getting a lot of satisfaction out of it. It helped me through the healing process a lot. I work with women, and I can not just sit in front of them because that's what I studied. I've been there. I lived that life. And I think that's what I love about what I do today.
And so you walked out sort of 20 years earlier and never revisited until that moment.
Until that moment.
So you put it down.
I put it down, and I took a lot of leaves and I put it up on top of it, and then one day this big wind came and just sushed everything away. Wow. That was a shocker.
How did you, when you left that night that you just read for us so beautifully, so a viewer who's listening now, a woman who's listening now that might be in the same situation is, I've reached that point. Where did you go? Did you reached out for help? What did you do? What did Azelene do next?
I did. Funny enough, the evening just before, actually the day before, my sister and I used to work together. I think my sister knew. She never said anything to me up until that Friday when I left work. She took me by the arm because, I got so clever in covering the bruises and the black eyes and tell stories about how I fell off the stairs, and I was a good liar. I lied about everything back then. And she took me by the arm and she said to me, if you need me, phone me. I don't care what time of night it is. And I tried to talk, and she put a finger on my mouth and she said, no, don't say anything. Just remember, if you need me, I'm there. And I looked into her eyes, and I knew she knew. I knew she knew what I was going through. And when this happened, and I got out of my flat that evening, that was an ordeal by itself. He was lying with my flat keys in his pocket, and it took me about an hour to get that out of his pocket, to escape out of my own flat. I got onto my motorbike and I had a little cat with me that I threw in front of my pyjamas because I knew he was going to kill the cat if he wakes up and I'm not there. And I drove down to the police station, got my interview with them, and the girl said, "Who do you want to phone?" I had to phone my sister. And I picked up the phone, and when she heard my voice, she just said to me, "Where are you? Are you okay?" And I said to her, "I'm at the police station in Sunnyside." And she said to me, "I'll be there just now." And she just put the phone down. And she was there. And it's after that I started speaking to my family and friends, a little bit that I had left, lost contact with.
And did they know? Oh, you said your sister had known.
My sister said she had a feeling that something was going on because there was just too many times that I had cover-ups for my bruises. You can't get so many bruises and fall down. I mean, I'm not that clumsy. I'm not a clumsy person. So she had a feeling. But she also said she never mentioned it to me. I mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to deny it. I'm not going to say to her, yes, I'm getting beaten up every now and again. I don't want them to know. So I lived a lie. I absolutely lived a lie for a very long time. I walked around with a mask. When I do my public speaking these days, one of my things that I speak about is remove the mask to reveal the inner beauty. And that's exactly what I did. I walked around with a mask for so long.
So the Azelene that is around and about today is true and real.
Azelene
very
is
honest.
now the person. I'm completely the different. I think now I irritate people even more because I speak out. I'm an extremely open book. My friends on my Facebook, every now and again, I'm like, oh, they're going to delete me. You know what? You need to go then, because I do speak up a lot about these things, a lot about women's issues. I stand up. I'm an advocate when it comes to women, and I just realised that I do make a difference with what I do. I get messages from women that I know went through hard times, bad relationships, domestic violence. Today, that says to me, Azelene, thank you for speaking up, not just for yourself, but for others as well, because we can't do it. And that gives me the satisfaction. So, yes, it's the real Azelene sitting in front of you now, a very outspoken woman.
Who was the strong woman, who was the strong child.
Who was the strong child.
Who was, I would think, be the motivator that enabled you to move at 20
yes.
out of that relationship. So how did you rebuild your life? And did he try and find you?
No. After I left him, I got a restraining order against him. As it is, and I think that was just a test from God, a couple of years later, it was literally about 5 or 10 years later, my ex-husband and I rented a house. We were building, and the estate agent contacted us and said she wants to bring a developer to the house just to come and do some changes on the house. Would that be okay? And I said, sure, anytime. He was a developer. And I got a knock on the door the one day, and I opened this door. This is like 10 years later, and here this man is standing. I mean, he was 6 foot something. He's standing in front of me, and I haven't seen him in ages. Wow, that was scary. I let them in. This poor agent didn't know about it. She didn't know about the situation, that I had a restraining order against him. So she took him through to the pool to go and look at the work that they wanted done. And afterwards I actually phoned her and I said to her, this is the circumstances. He can't do this work. I've got a restraining order against him. He's not allowed to get in contact with me. And she felt terrible. And after that, I've never seen him again. With Facebook, I know he's on Facebook. I've never contacted him. I also won't contact him ever. What saddens me about it is I know that he's got a daughter the same age that I was when he started basically beating me up the first time. That's very sad. I hope he changed his ways. I don't know what's going on in his life, but yeah, I hoped everything worked out for him. If I do see him on the street today, I will shake his hand and just say to him, thank you for the person you created, because this is me. Not that I say it's a good thing for what they're doing, but I will not let him put me down ever with what he's done to me.
And is that thank you about the gift that he showed you the absolute core strength of who you are, that you were able to rebuild your life and do so many successful things that you have gone on to do?
Yes, like I say, it's a little bit of a sarcasm in that as well from my side, because I don't want to say thank you to him. I don't want anybody to ever do anything like this to anybody. But my circumstances, I was able to take the negative and put it into a different way. And I just never wanted him to get the satisfaction of breaking me down like they normally do. I want him to see the strong person. I know you might never see the strong person, but yeah.
And what message would you like to send out to our viewers about, if they're in a situation or a situation they're stuck in, not necessarily domestic violence, what would you like to offer?
My message will be, if you're in the circumstances and you're not talking out, please do. Even if it's just with one person, talk about it. Keep a CV of your partner, and if I say keep a CV of your partner, every little thing that happens, write it down. If there was a domestic violence situation, put the date down, write down what happened, just make a little bit of a CV. But also have a safety zone for yourself. Make sure you've got keys hidden somewhere, a copy of a house key or a car key, medical cards, an extra bank account. Just things that if something happens tonight and you feel your life is in danger and you need to get out and there's nobody that can help you at that point, you've got things in place in other areas. So you need to have somebody in your life that you can trust and tell what's going on, and all these little things that you put together for your safety, leave it with them. Your little notes, little things that happen, you need to do it. I know it's extremely difficult, but get help. 90% of the time it doesn't change, and women always look at themselves and think, but what's wrong with them? Why is it happening to them? Do I deserve this? I just also want to add it there for the men out there. This thing swings both ways. I know for a fact there's men going through the same thing. So it's not just women that's the victims. We are the majority, but unfortunately it happens with men as well. And that saddens me, because I think it's much more difficult for a man to stand up and say, this is what's going on in my life.
It is, because society doesn't quite understand that if they're the male, because we've been brought up in more of a patriarchal society where men dominate.
Yeah.
It's not perceived to be the other way around at times.
Men are supposed to be strong, and that can't happen to them.
Yes. So the 2 points that you raised were to put a safety plan in place and have a friend at least that you can talk to and will know what's going on. And the point of keeping the CV with dates and events, is that so that if you're ready to go to the police, you've got some proof or
evidence? I'm going to put it to you this way, is I've met, just before I left South Africa a couple of years ago, I actually went and I visited a lady in jail that was in jail because she killed her husband. She went to jail. There was no evidence against her in the sense of why, that she was in a domestic violence relationship, or that all these things that she told them really happened. Now, unfortunately, if there's a domestic violence situation right now in a family situation, people do get killed. I mean, you look at the stats at this stage. Currently in Australia, 1 woman every 5 to 7 days gets killed in Australia. If you're in a situation like that and you need to protect yourself, and it ends up that you kill your partner, the person that's abusive to you, you need to prove yourself that you're not guilty in court one day, and that's just going to help you with it, and putting you through the process. And even if it gets to you go through a divorce, people need to know about it. You can't just one day walk out and say, I've been in a domestic violence relationship for 10 years, I'm innocent. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So I would suggest just keep notes of everything going on.
And what percentage of women, from your experience with counselling and helping them, how many actually are able to leave, get to that point where they're able to leave and never go back?
A lot of them do, a lot of them don't. And 90% of the time, it's economically. They don't work because they've been broken down so much in their relationships that they're actually nobody. That person will literally get you from a top businesswoman to somebody that doesn't have a job anymore. That's how much they can break you down. If you get to that point, you're just scared to leave because you don't have anything. And sometimes you've got kids as well. So where do you go with the kids? There's a lot of refuge or places out there that do help and support people. Yes, it's difficult to get onto your feet again, but you need to take that first step.
Is there a lot of support, like with the refuges and say people like yourself, to help these women move forward and to get back on their feet?
Yes, definitely. And there's a couple in Perth that are support. So yeah, there's definitely. People can get in contact with me if they want to find out more where to go. I do a lot of pro bono work, counselling wise, specifically because I get women coming to see me for counselling and they can't afford it because there's economic abuse. It's not just people. Sometimes has got a little bit of a misconcept. You know, you talk about domestic violence and they think, oh, I'm in a relationship, bad relationship, but luckily I'm not in a domestic violence relationship because I don't get beaten up. That's not the point. You get emotional abuse, you get sexual abuse, you get economical abuse. There's so many other things that is also part of the whole, circle of domestic violence and abuse.
So if anyone's taking your power or denying you your right as a human, as a woman, then these are like the red flags to start looking at.
Little red flags,
yes. Yeah, and where does the infertility come in? Because you have this wonderful book that you've written.
About a year after I got out of my domestic violence relationship, I met my ex-husband and fell in love with him. We were together for about 3 years. We got married. We were together for 9.5 years. And I was in love with him completely. Struggled with infertility in the relationship. We had our ups and downs, and in the end, it didn't work out for us. We didn't go through a divorce because of the infertility. We had other reasons for that. I do believe that I don't wash my dirty washing in my book and, just out in the open. I've got an extremely good relationship with my ex-husband. I do believe that I just wasn't a good fit for him and he wasn't a good fit for me. I'm still in contact with him. I still love him to bits. He's a great guy. He's got a wonderful wife now. And it just didn't work out for us. And I published my book. I think he was absolutely amazing. The day I went and I said to him, I want to publish my book. And I said to him, the nicest guy in the book, but are you okay if I publish it? And he said to me, you know what, Azelene, you've got a story and you need to tell your story. So, I think he's just awesome in that respect that he gave me the opportunity to voice myself. And I published my book. So, it's something very close to my heart. I went through my divorce. I met my husband that I'm currently with, and we were together for 3.5 years. Didn't use any contraceptive because I can't have babies. The doctors told me I'm wasting my money. I'm never going to have babies.
Of course.
And 3.5 years later, I fell pregnant with Sian at the age of 42. So yes, I'm the mother of one little gracious gift from God. I do believe that's a little gift after all the nonsense he gave me.
Yes.
So, yes.
And is that a common story where people have gone through years and years of fertility treatments and it's almost like when you let go and stop and say, okay, it's not going to happen, that's when it happens.
I do think so. I do believe that. I think it was, it's one or two things. It's either Johan and I wasn't a good match, but I also think I've put a lot of pressure on myself, and that also related to, all the issues that I had. I've heard a lot of stories where women just went and they started relaxing about it, and then it happened.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And she was born in South Africa?
She was born in South Africa, and then we moved to the Middle East, lived in the Middle East for just over 4 years, and in Australia now for 4 years.
So you've recreated a new life here in Australia?
Yes.
And
this is home.
This is home. Yeah, still call Australia home.
I love it. Thanks Australia for having us. I love the place. Love it.
Is that where you made your transition from the infertility counsellor to the domestic violence counsellor? Yes.
Yes. I literally arrived here at 38. Went through that process. Who am I and what am I going to do with my life? It was a very deep stage for me. I think it's also because I was very close to 40. Like I said, I didn't have any education. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. My little baby just started going off to school, so it's Papa, Mummy, I don't need you anymore. What am I going to do with myself? It was very depressing for me. I knew I'm not going to get a job somewhere. I can't be a secretary. I can't spell. My spelling is totally corrupt. So what the hell am I going to do with myself? And that's at the point when I decided to study counselling and bring my own experience into my life and make a change.
Which is awesome. It's like you went full circle. Completion.
I did. And that's also one thing that I want to say to women out there. If you are my age, I'm 42 now, and you think, you know what, I'm going through this bad relationship, I can't start over again, you can. If you look at my life cycle, my wheel of life, where I was literally 4 years ago, I was in the middle, in that deep, dark hole. No education. Nowhere to go. I didn't know who I was. I would cry myself to bed because I didn't have friends, I didn't have family, I didn't have support here, I didn't have anything. But at that stage I had a husband and a 1-year-old that supported me a little bit, and I started building myself up.
So what pulled you out? You had your husband, you had your daughter, but what else? Because they're the moments when we have to go within and pull out the parts of us.
You know what I think it was? I think it was my standard 5. Now, we used to speak about standards in South Africa, and I think that is about year 4 teacher. Her little voice came to my mind, literally at that stage. She loved saying to me, "You're never going to make it in life. You're going to be a washout. Because I had a learning disability and I was naughty in class. I was completely hyperactive, so I was not her favourite kid in the class. That's why I also like going and do talks at schools, just to uplift people and say to children that go through learning difficulties that there's life after a learning disability. You can get out of that. My teacher's voice came up in my head, and I just knew, but I need to do this. And I went and I did my diploma in counselling, and after I did that, I had this tick. I'm not dumb, I'm not stupid, I can do this, I can study. How did I study? I did a lot of the things for voice, because my reading is not very good, so I had text-to-speech and drag and dictate, so I took all my modules. I completed my holistic counselling diploma, and a year after that I did a diploma in community works, published my book, and I'm busy with my second book now.
Wow, you've done so many things, and it's like you've constantly reinvented yourself.
Yes.
Each time you hit that deep dot hit, you got yourself right out.
I need to get out again, yeah.
And what's the absolute driving force that got you out of the pit each time? What's that part inside of you? Have you been able to identify it? Is it that I'll never give up?
You know what? I don't know. I think there was so much happening in my life. I've been through really bad patches. I think it's a combination of everything. And support. I do have my family support. I've got my mom's support, my sister's support. My dad unfortunately passed away when I was 27. He was my absolute big hero. I think I do a lot of what I do today because of him as well. He left school also at an early age. And yeah, I think it's just to show to him that I'm going to make it. I'm not going to lie there.
Yes.
And that's why I do what I do. I think my big driving force at this moment is to show other women that's going through that, you know, this is where I was. You can also be there. And that's why I would like people to get in contact with me, because I want to take people on my journey. I do believe if you've been there yourself, it's so much easier to help others get there as well.
And what is your biggest inspiration? Your family were definitely there for support and assistance.
Mm-hmm.
But what was your biggest inspiration?
My daughter.
Oh.
And there's a specific reason for that. She's 8 now. And my biggest inspiration was when she was 6 years old and she walked up to me with these big blue eyes and she said to me, "Mommy, I want to do what you do." And I'm like, "What do I do?" And she said to me, "You make people happy. And I want to teach kids to make me happy and other kids happy." Sian stutters, and she got teased and bullied because of her stuttering. And I looked at her and I was like, "Whoa, what do you want to do?" And she said she wanted to voice herself. That was my inspiration, because I knew that with everything that I went through, I taught my daughter something. I taught my daughter at the age of 6 to stand up for herself. A little girl that would walk into her bedroom and cry her eyes out and pray to God to take her voice away because she didn't want to stutter, to somebody that wanted to make a difference. And that was good. That was amazing for me.
And it's like she actually did the opposite from taking her voice away. She gave herself a voice.
She gave herself a voice.
As did her mother.
Yes.
And we are going to interview her later. She's an amazing little girl.
She didn't think she's going to be interviewed today. So that is, that's very exciting.
Yes.
It's very exciting to have her on the same show.
She blew my socks off when I met her. I was like, "You must come on the show."
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing your story
Thank you,
today.
Jennifer. I really
Thank you
appreciate it.
for your courage and
you.
everything. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So if you've enjoyed and learned a lot from and been inspired by Azelene's story today, you can go to our website, www.1000women1000ways, and hop into our chat room and make some comments, and maybe you can help inspire someone today. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.